All right, what's cooking, Juventus fans? Welcome back into the Beyond Canary Zone. Welcome into what I'm calling the black and white take. It's every single time I get it on, that's when the loud stuff hits or whatever. Oh, I still got you muted. What's up, everybody? Today, it's May 12th. It's a Thursday. I'm Justin Sofro, your host. Maybe not as always for these lives, but you'll see me on the channel regularly. With me today is my guy. He's been kind of a regular here on the channel lately. It's my guy Dash. It is one of our members. And how are you doing, my friend?
You know, I'm just trying to move on. It's one of those things where we're not going to talk about what happened yesterday. We're just going to talk about, Taco Bell and McDonald's. No, I'm kidding. Hey, everybody, great to be back on the show again.
Well, I mean, today the news is obviously I don't know what you're talking about. The only thing we really have to talk about is celebrating the U23 and then moving forward in the City Chi playoffs or whatever. Anyway, we're celebrating that. That's great. That's wonderful. But obviously, there's a lot to talk about. Following the Mets that was yesterday, all that went along with that. Guys, if you're new here, if you haven't already, hit the like button, smash the subscribe button, hit the bell icon, all that good stuff. I want to make sure I don't forget that before we get into it. And then let's just... I guess just the first one thing I want to do, because I've talked about it. People, you can watch our video. Alejandro and myself had an instant reaction to the match yesterday. And one of the things I really do want to say following that was just that I guess my personal... I'd say that I was a little rattled. And that's the only way I can really say it. Like, following that game, I expected everything that came along with it. But coming in and trying to, come in... to the instant reaction and trying to give my thoughts on it wasn't easy to do, because when I say rattled, I had this emotional reaction to it that I didn't expect to have. Does that make sense at all? I was more pissed off than I felt like than maybe most people would be, or maybe even that I should have been. Let me know though. What was your what was your reaction overall to the match? To obviously just laying a massive egg in the biggest moment of the season.
Honestly, if I could give you a good physical representation, it was literally this.
you just rage quit?
Well, it was one of those things where I'm just looking at it. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I need to take a walk. I can't. Nope. This isn't. Nope. I needed to walk just to figure out if this is legitimately happening or not. There's a lot of indicators that we saw from that game player-wise on some certain players that I'll touch on when we get deeper into the show. But it was just one of those things where I was like, how? Seriously? Part of me, I don't want to sit there and just, persecute the refs and all, but I'm just, looking at it. I'm looking at some of those calls or some of those pens or even the Brozovic situation where I'm like, really? But I was perplexed because, I honestly didn't even know what just happened.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways that I'm going to want to tackle this throughout today's show and what we're doing here. I know there's a lot of fans that have frustrations with specific players, specific coaches, a lot of other feelings. There's a lot that's been going around. I've been perusing social media, if you will, just to see the reaction, because I knew, I kind of knew what to expect coming into this, but I also didn't realize, everybody is so emotional. Everybody's so emotional with this reaction, even given, okay, well, first off, let's go here. And this is me again. My mind, people don't know. It's hard to tell maybe from watching this. My mind is firing off 7 different thoughts at one time. And me trying to put into words is not always the easiest. Most people here, I'd imagine, probably are feeling the same thing as fans. I think going into this game, there's part of me, and this take may be a little hot, but I feel like if Juventus would have ended up pulling out that win with that come from behind 2-1, if that would have held early in the second half, I feel like that almost would have been, and I use this term the other way, but it would have been fraudulent. It would have been fraudulent from what we've seen from this team throughout the entire season. You would have lucked into a trophy in that moment, I feel like. Because what we've seen, we have not seen the development, we haven't seen the players, we haven't seen the coaching to say at all that this team should be, honestly, a champion of anything.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you on there, man. It's just our season is literally like that metaphor, so close but yet so far away. It's in the U.S. we have that the one guy that has a dollar bill to the fishing rod, and you're just going to grab it. And he's like, nope. So it's
so close, really.
Yeah, this team is honestly, it's literally the definition of a toxic significant other, where they're just like, hey, we're gonna open you up with warm arms and bring it just right back to crap in your face, and that's literally what it was. Because it's I didn't expect that 2-goal turnaround in like 2 minutes. I'm like sitting there and it's like, Morata comes in, the Sandro goal. I already thought this game was going to be the Twilight Zone. Now Alexandro took a shot from outside the box and it goes in miraculously. So then when that second counterattacking goal went in, I'm like, I don't even know what's going on right now. Whatever happens, I guess I'll take it. But this just absolutely feels cheap. And then, what happened. We had a ridiculously weird penalty call, and then we just absolutely got mollywopped in extra time.
Yeah, it was. I think the way that I kind of said it is, if you look at it, every single time Juventus has played Inter throughout the season, it's been a worse performance. Like I said, outside of a literally like a 3 minute span, maybe if it was even that long, I don't know. It was probably quicker than that the 2 goals were scored. I don't remember the exact time. I was in a different headspace during that moment. But at the same time, outside of that, if you look at every single game, it's gotten progressively worse. The last match, it felt like, was just gifted to Inter when Juventus with some of the calls that were made. There were bad calls in this game, and we're going to talk about that as well. But at the same time, Juventus was not good enough. This team I have not seen any kind of development. I've seen no plan. And that's a problem going forward, is that I don't see something to build off for next season. Outside of the only positive that we have here recently was that Juventus come into this not worried in the final day if they're in the top four. That's it. And trust me, we'll get into, maybe not today, maybe another day, we'll get into the Allegri, Pirlo, whoever else conversation when it comes to coaching.
I can't. Every time I see memes on that on Twitter and Instagram right now, the whole Pirlo versus Allegri thing, and I'm like, they're both crap. Can we just like come on and find some common ground? Like both of the coaches, their respective years were just not good.
Well, I don't mean, when I say that, I don't mean just to say Pirlo. I just mean coaching overall. That's an aspect. Actually, we'll get to a little bit of that, but in a different way, not the Pirlo comparison, I guess, to be fair.
No, I gotcha. But yeah, it's one of those things, and I think the one indicator is Massimiliano Allegri. If you are watching this podcast, you are not in 2015 or 2016. Stop trying to play like that. It's not going to work.
Yeah. I'm going to let you have a little bit more of the floor right now, and just kind of give me your thoughts. You're outside of just the Juventus losing. Some thoughts on the way the players' performances. Anything that stuck out to you? Anything that worried you? Anything that gave you any semblance of hope for next season that we can really, I mean, I don't blame you if you say there isn't one. To be fair.
I don't want to say that there isn't hope, but there's a couple of things that I've seen, and it's a recurring thing. So like one thing is, and I'm going to get harked on it for it, but I'm going to go after De Ligt real quick. So the thing is there's been crucial moments where De Ligt makes some of the most dumbest tackles I have ever seen in my life. Like, I'm going to give him a pass on that first penalty, but like, for example, the Stefan de Vrij foul, where Stefan de Vrij was running at full speed at the ball, where the ball clearly nicks his hand. So De Ligt didn't need to step into that. That was just kind of dumb on De Ligt's part. That's something I expect Demiral to do, not De Ligt. That was just a really rash, just bones overhead tackle. That's one of the things too. And it's kind of a recurring issue with our defenders too, where it's whenever we're supposed to sit and hold a game, it's like a mental issue. I just think that the team, I don't want to say that they're completely mentally fragile, but when it comes to just sitting back and holding a lead, they just crumble once they start just getting bombarded with pressure. I don't know. It always happens after the 70th minute where you just start seeing chinks in the armor, and then it doesn't just fall. It just completely just crumbles after like the first goal. The one thing that's kind of concerning with me is Vlahovic is the second thing, and I'm going to get a lot of whoa, what are you talking about? So watching De Vrij, and when I was watching De Vrij mark Vlahovic, I noticed that De Vrij was putting in pinpoint tackles on him. So it's like just clean on the ball tackles. So that tells me that De Vrij is watching film on Vlahovic on how he turns and how he essentially plays in, where we get that Vlahovic is that guy that puts his back onto the center back and tries to make something happen. But my concern now is that he's at Juve and it's amplified. So everybody's watching film on it. Everybody's studying the way that he moves. And if you notice, Vlahovic kind of has that, I'm going to drop my left or my right or left shoulder and then turn over to my strong foot. And he did that multiple times in the game where De Vrij was like, I'm already 2 steps ahead of you, bro. And he slides in ahead of time and it's clean tackles. And I don't even want to say it's good defending on De Vrij. It's, for me, from what I saw, it was that De Vrij knew that Vlahovic was going to turn at the moment he turns and is able to nick the ball out. So one thing is, and I think that and I get it because it's Vlahovic's bread and butter, the way that he moves like that, because that's what's put him at this level. But I think over the summer, I think Vlahovic is going to want to have to look at essentially updating his inventory of skills and moves, because that's the one thing I noticed against Genoa. That's the other thing that I've noticed against ever since he kind of came over to Juve, is that teams have been watching more film on him, and they kind of attack him the same way. They're like, hey, we're going to give you that fake over to your left so you can cross over to your left, but we're going to already be on the ground slide tackling the ball. Yep. So I think that's one of the things too, is I think that just tactically, that's one of the things that he has to work on as well. A shining spot, I'll give Cuadrado some praise. He played decently well, in my opinion, the game up on the right side. Bernadeschi did well attacking D'Ambrosio, even though, it's D'Ambrosio, the guy's like the defensive capability of a log, but you were able to attack that weak side of Inter's defense, and they did. Morata coming in he was honestly a game changer. He was able to widen out the game, just because Inter, and that's the thing with Inter's formation, is you can't go through the middle. You have to stretch them out wide so you can go through the middle. So Morata gave them that opening on the wide side, but there is, I don't want to be doom and gloom and Mr. Negative and say there's no hope. There's a possibility, but the thing is it's tough to really talk about next season, because who's going to be here?
We don't. We don't know that.
That's the thing. Like I guess you could say that Vlahovic and Zakaria played well. So I mean, I guess you could say Vlahovic, Zakaria were bright spots. But at the end of the day, half of these players that were on the field, I don't even know if they're going to be here or not. So even if they played well or not, there's not going to be I'm super excited for next year, because they might not be here.
Right. I think, two of the aspects I want to talk about from what you talked about was, first up, Vlahovic. And that is one of the problems that Juventus have right now with having one main guy, one main real threat at all times, because you can just pinpoint him. You can just man mark him and keep an eye on him, shut him down, and you shut down most of it. That's what literally, if you remember earlier this season, De Ligt did that to Vlahovic when we played Fiorentina. And that's kind of what, if you have the same kind of situation. One of the things that we were missing, though, if you noticed, and like I said, I am not the analytics guy, so when I say some of the stuff, you've worded a bit better than I do, and like Alejandro, Julian, I'll let them handle that. I just talk. That's what I do. I'm a hype guy, right? But as a fan, one of the things I saw is the very first match that we have of Vlahovic in there. You got Morata and Dybala lining up. You have the three of them together, and you have an offensive threat at all times. You have, and things were cooking that day. You had Zakaria as well, looking pretty good, and you saw the way that Morata was gelling with Vlahovic in that very first game. I can't remember who it was. It was probably a bum, but it is what it is. At the same time, yeah, maybe it's not. It's not. You're not playing Inter in the Coppa Italia final, but at the same time, you had a lot more. You had a lot more threat going on. They had to watch other guys. They had to respect Dybala. And they had to respect Morata as well. The problem is you haven't been seeing these guys be utilized this way. Dybala is whatever. I mean, I don't want to touch too much on Dybala, because at this point, okay, we'll say this. That smirk at the end of the game pissed me off. I didn't like that at all. I don't know how you felt about that, but that pissed me off. It said everything to me. It said exactly what I felt that he, where his position is on Juventus, on Inter, on his future, all that. Maybe I'm reading way too much into it, but I did not appreciate that at all, especially for a player whom Allegri actually kind of entrusted today or yesterday. Anyway, so what do you think about when it comes to Juventus not having other key pieces to really make that are respectable that other teams have to worry about? Is that something that we need to look forward to moving forward to next season?
Yeah. No, we do. So the thing is when you look at it from a tactical basis, to be a 3-5-2, you need to isolate their center backs. The only way that you do that is with three dangerous attacking players. So hypothetically, let's just say that he wasn't injured, but if we had Chiesa, Morata, and Vlahovic, it would have been a totally different game if all three of them were fit. Because Morata, whether we want to admit it or not, he's a terrible finisher, but he is fast. He will come at you hard. Same thing with Chiesa and Vlahovic. So if you have three fast players where you're able to pull those center backs out, then you're able to do those 1-2s in the middle and go through it. But the problem is Dybala Dybala's not that fast, and Dybala was man marking Brozovic, so Dybala was all over the place. So
Yeah.
your only reference point is Vlahovic, and again, these Inter players have watched film on how he plays. So you had Stefan de Vrij that was man marking him, and then you either had Skriniar or D'Ambrosio there to, like, for example, if Skriniar or if de Vrij obstructs Vlahovic and makes him take a heavy touch, there's another center back there that's going to be able to clean up and pick up, because nobody on the wings were pushing per se. So you didn't have that much of an offensive threat. So it's easy to shut down Vlahovic. And those two goals that we got were flukes. Like, I'm going to be honest with you. It wasn't where we outplayed them. It just kind of happened per se.
I mean, there was momentum, and that's all it was. It was literally just momentum. It wasn't even about like the way they're playing. It's just sometimes you're feeling it. Sometimes you're in a game and it just gets going, and then they kill the momentum as soon as that second goal was scored. They shut it down. They shut it down completely, and then they got to the 67th minute, and they were ready to move on and just play a defensive game that played poorly. And that's what I mean. Allegri. I mean, it is his fault when it comes to the substitutions. The players still have their own blame to take in this thing. So I don't want to just come in and just go at Allegri right now. Just like, I realize also, it's a live show. It's not a review show. I guess it is a review show, but it's a live show. What am I doing over here? Let me see. I've ignored a little bit of the chat. Just want to see what some of the people are saying. Allegri must stay, bro. Otherwise, we'll go 2 years back, because it's obvious how far we've fallen, and it won't be easy for a new guy to come with no funds. Yeah, one thing I just want to clarify. Regardless of how you may feel, and I feel my own certain way right now, nothing is changing when it comes to the head coaching situation this season. Agnelli's not going to do it to Allegri. I thought maybe this might be something that would heat up his seat a little bit, but at the same time, nothing's going to change in the next few months. I mean, if it does, I will be shocked. Like, I will be shocked on this channel if they do actually make a move. And that, which sounds weird to say for a team that's made a move each of the last 3 seasons to move on from their coach. But I just don't feel like you bring Allegri in to do this. He's going to get a lot of, and it seems for all intents and purposes right now, Allegri has a lot of power right now in this Mercado. And because maybe some guys are not as trusted as maybe we had hoped that they would be, or maybe they're not as experienced right now, in this Mercado. What are your thoughts on Allegri when I say that about?
Yeah, no. If we were to sack him, then we'd instantly become a banter club like Arsenal or like the Milans for the last 10 years. It's not going to work. Like, we've seen it with Milan and Inter, both absolutely cycling coaches every a year practically, and nothing really happened. So the thing is like, we have to give Allegri another year. We have to see what he does, and if he flops next year, that's it. Like, he's gone. But think of it this way, guys, because we signed him to a 4-year deal, so we're gonna have to keep him on the books for another 3 years. So, which means we're not going to be able to overspend on a coach. So that means we're going to probably get a mediocre coach at best. Because let's be real here. So, like, Pirlo, if we look at it financially, Pirlo is getting paid about $1 to $2 million for that season. Because we still owed Allegri and Sarri money that season. So we're not going to be able to overspend anything. So, like, for example, hypothetically, if Pep Guardiola gets sacked this summer, we're not going to be able to sack Allegri and get Guardiola, because it's just the cost-wise. These guys, the team's not going to go that direction. So he's going to stay.
Any dream, any kind of dream signings is out of the picture. And even I even say going into next season, it's out of the picture. Like any of the Guardiola, any of the Zidane, any of that, I just don't see it happening. Right? I mean, I don't know.
I'm not too. Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm not too high on the Zidane train, just because I just look at with his last current time at his second stint at Madrid, and I was just kind of like, like meh. I mean, like, that first stint he had, I'm just gonna say he inherited a really, really good team, and it was just kind of like managing something. I don't see Zidane being the player to build something from the ground up. It's just, I'm sorry, I could be wrong, but it's just from my eye test, I'm just like, and then it's like, Guardiola, we're not going to be able to afford him. I mean, who are we going to get? De Zerbi, Gasperini? Like, I wouldn't want Gasperini to step foot in Turin. Like, he's not a Juve coach. So it's like, and like, I mean, what, we're going to poach Luciano Spalletti from Napoli, and like, what's that going to do? I mean, everything's either a downgrade or a lateral. So there's not really anyone to go for.
Actually, this is something I was saving for later in the show, but let's just go ahead and get into it. Okay. First off, we know with this situation. Real quick. Anton Russo was saying somebody punched Allegri, and that's why he got mad. Did that happen? I
Yeah,
didn't see that.
so after the goal happened, it was an interperson. I'm not sure if it was a staff member or a player walked by and actually kicked him, and then Allegri cussed him out, and the referee heard him swear, so the referee was like,
Oh, see, I saw him cussing out. I saw him going at players, but I didn't see what instigated it to begin with. So, I mean, it makes sense. I kind of wish it didn't take that to have that kind of passion and that kind of fire, maybe to get into it. But also at the same time, what's he gonna do? Get kicked out of a game for no reason? You can't do that. Okay, so first off, obviously. And this is going to be a big picture kind of situation. When we look at Juventus, we look at the future moving forward. You're going into a season of flux. It's an end of an era, the changing of the guard, if you will. Right now, we're looking at. Chiellini after the match said, we all knew it because Romeo Grassi confirmed it, and we've been talking about it all season. That basically with his health, he can't stay healthy, he can't keep playing. It's just time for him to move on, and for Juventus to look to the future. Which is I don't say that callously. I want to make sure that's clear. I don't say it callously at all. Chiellini is in my holy trinity of Juventus players. It's Del Piero, Buffon, and Chiellini, if you're asking me. But we're moving forward with moving to him. He's going to MLS, doing whatever he does. And then we look at the situation. We look at all the players that we've been pushing, or not pushing out, but we've moved out. That they're getting too old. Honestly. And I understand you said that you think that Cuadrado had a pretty good game yesterday. There are aspects. Maybe I'm just also pinpointing the moments where I saw him bleep up. So there are moments that I was pretty frustrated with him. But you see Cuadrado, even Danilo is another player who struggled yesterday. He was getting worked all game. A lot of these older players, the other guys that are getting moved on, Rabiot, whatever have you, Juventus are going to look to the future with guys like potentially Raspadori. And this is where the question comes in. First, there's a two-parter for you, so be ready. You're good. I don't know you're ready. But first off, was it a mistake for Juventus to retread with Allegri? Is Allegri? Is he a dinosaur? Is he the past when Juventus needs to be looking toward the future? And again, I'm not trying to put Pirlo in the category. It was his first year, having no experience. He did win 2 trophies. We got to give him the credit there, whatever you want to say about that. But at the same time, Allegri comes in and has a much worse season. Besides being comfortable in the 4th place, I think it's a much worse season. It was still really close because of the way the team played. It was about the same. Maybe you could say Pirlo lucked into it a little bit there. And then the second part is, when we come to the Mercado, and we're talking about players like Paul Pogba, is that a similar situation? That you don't need to be looking at the past, you need to be looking toward the future and looking at a younger guy, even though he is a generational. I don't know if generational talent's the word to use, but one of the top. Would you say generational?
As far as the position goes, the center midfielder, center defensive midfielder. He's not ahead of Kroos and Modric, but he's top 5, top 6 when he's actually healthy and really good.
Yeah. So I know the question was a little bit convoluted. I was trying to work through my 3. These are 3 separate topics that I'm really just forcing into one because I realized this time's going to go a lot quicker than all the. I think I have a whole page of things I want to talk about, but it's not going to. We're not going to be able to fit it all into one show. Let's stick with the movie, the future and the past. Is it a bad idea, or are there instances where you're utilizing a guy like either utilizing Allegri as a coach or utilizing Pogba as a player makes more sense than trying to look for the next thing?
So I do go on the boat with Alejandro on this one, where I'm kind of skeptical on former players coming back. But the thing is we have to look at it from what pieces we had per se. So it's like, we look at the Pirlo year and we look at what their front 3 was. It was Chiesa, Ronaldo, and Morata. Chiesa was a surging star because Chiesa, he was known, but he wasn't known to be world class, and he just kind of had his coming out game against Milan in January of 2021. And then Ronaldo is Ronaldo. So for me, it's like, the thing is we look at that year and we compare it to this year. So we don't have someone that can bang 30 goals a season. So that automatically hurts us right off the get-go. So the thing is and I remember no one really notices this, but there was a season where Milan started off terrible when Allegri was their coach. and he was able to turn the ship and bring them back into the top three, I think, that season. I believe it was the season before he got sacked, because that's when Milan ran out of money. But the thing is like, we brought we brought in Allegri because we're looking for an identity. We're looking at something because before this season, what was Allegri known for? The 1-0 always gets results guy. Just kind of like, for example, how Inter brought in Conte because they wanted an identity. They wanted something that, like, for example, that you were going to consistently get. So, like, Juve kind of went that path, too, because, like, the thing is there's a bunch of unknowns. So we look at the coaching carousel last summer. We don't know, per se, like, for example, who's available. Like, I mean, De Serbi, he went to Shakhtar and did absolutely terrible, and I don't even think he's their coach anymore. Who else were we going to get? Spalletti. So Spalletti was, again, he wasn't really proven as anything crazy. Allegri being on the market, I mean, everyone can trash Allegri all he wants, but Real Madrid wanted him because he was known for something. So it's like, he has an identity. I mean, this year didn't work out well to him. I honestly think it's a personnel reasoning, because the thing is like, this team that we have this year is built off of what Sarri wanted in 2019, some of the players that Pirlo wanted in 2020. So the squad's kind of in shambles.
A mess.
And you lost Ronaldo, which is a 30-goal scorer guaranteed. So, like, the thing is like, we look at Pirlo's run with Juve last year. You know how many games Ronaldo bailed out Pirlo because they were losing to Udinese or Torino, or, like, for example, they were just dropping games out of nowhere. So it's like, the thing is like, people can say that Pirlo played progressive football, but he had no plan B whenever crap hit the fan. So it's like, the team wanted to go away from the unpredictability that he had to something that, it's crappy, it's a crappy product, but we're able to get results. And, like, even though, like, playing wise, the squad didn't play better than, under Pirlo, because Pirlo was more of an offensive coach, but we have to call a spade and say that, look, we qualified for the top four without biting our nails. Like, I remember last year around this time, we lost 3-0 to Milan at home. We were all crapping bricks because we're like, dude, what's going to happen? And then it's like, I was
done in that moment. I remember the exact moment where I was, and I was like, oh, bleep. This, like, I saw everything crumbling. I saw the Mercado crumbling. At the time, it was Locatelli, so it was just one player. But at the same time, I saw it all coming down, close to what we were feeling like midway through. I mean, not that long ago, where we felt like it was going to happen again.
Yep, and it was the Milan game, and then it was the Atalanta game that we played. Then it was just absolutely shambles. And then it's like, we're all watching that Napoli-Verona game because we all know that Milan purposely threw that game to Atalanta to help them climb the table. But, like, we're all watching that game, and we're just like, dude, are we seriously going to play in the Europa League again? So it was one of those seasons where, like, like, we had better offense, but, like, at the same time, it was a mess.
Yeah. I think this, let me touch on this because I see a couple people kind of going back and forth. And I apologize. We'll say Punja at the end. I apologize. I just don't want to butcher your name on and respect it. Saying I agree that Allegri needs to tweak a few things, but I'm 100% sure Allegri is the guy we need now. And I think that's and I'm not saying what I agree with or what I don't agree with. I see, we also see Forza Juve who's saying you Allegri fans are all afraid of losing what we have. What do we have? Barely fourth, no trophies. So we have a good combination of people that think both ways right now in the fan base that are here right now. One of the things too is, like you mentioned, the makeup of the team that we have right now is this weird mesh, like, plastered, confluence of different players that don't make sense for these systems. Because like you said, we're doing it for Allegri originally when you have, like, Rabiot and Ramsey, who's going to come back, and then hopefully something happens with him. He's going to be gone. He's not going to stay with the team. But then you have guys that, you bring – well, actually, I don't know. Did Saudi ever – he never really got any guys because it was like a last I'm trying to remember exactly the timing. Did he get anybody that he really wanted in that first season, in the summer or the Mercado, or was he added too late for them to do that? Do you recall?
For what season?
Maurizio Sarri in the 1920 season.
Oh, sorry.
Did he get any? Because I know he wanted Jorginho for the next one, but
no, I don't think so. Because the thing is like Ramsey and Rabiot came in. We got those guys like in January when they signed their pre-contract agreement. So I don't even think Sarri got anyone. Like, unless you want to count Danilo, but like I don't even think Danilo was a Sarri player. That was just us trying to get off
Yeah.
Cancelo off the books to get that. Cause,
Yeah, and they're trying to trade Paulo Dybala for what's his name,
Lukaku.
Romelu Lukaku. Yeah, of course, and all that. But yeah, I was trying to remember that was definitely, it seemed like a waste of Mercado in that circumstance. But then again, but then you move on to Pirlo, you bring in Weston McKennie, you bring in guys like I guess they say that Pirlo picked out Weston McKennie himself, I'm guessing, with his MLS experience and everything that went along with that, as well as getting, you got Kulusevski. You got Kulusevski during the winter of Saudi.
Yeah,
So,
he was a Sarri player because he played as a right winger, and it worked for Sarri's style. So we got him under that, and then I think Arthur was also planned to be a Sarri player as well because we were swapping out Pjanic.
Yeah, it's just such a hodgepodge of this team right now. So that's why I'm interested in, and I was wondering that because if you remember last Mercado, and I was expecting, not that I was expecting this massive overturn, but I was expecting something to happen, and that's where I don't know when you jumped on the channel that we were doing, but on our channel I came on here every day, be like, so is Locatelli gonna happen? Is it going to happen or not? Is it not happening? It's just me yelling and screaming because it's not going to happen. And then nothing else was really going on in the Mercado outside of, they picked up at the end, a couple players there with, what's the Brazilian kid? Why am I forgetting his name? I forgot his name. That's how much the next name are. Yeah, Caio Jorge. I forgot his name there at the end. That's how much he's meant to the season. Anyway, with players like that, it's just one of those situations. And then of course Moise Kean, with the situation that went along with there. So I'm interested to see what Max Allegri, if he does have the power that they're saying he was supposed to have, that's why he came to Juventus, outside of his fondness of, Agnelli and the team overall, he's supposed to have some power in this Mercado. What are the players that he's going to pick out? Is it going to be a Pogba? Is it going to be something else? I know it seems like right now, just for updates, let's go ahead and throw it out there. Because we're covering these updates. We have some latest tweets out there, or I guess really just reports from Paulo Nanmolo. We'll make this kind of a news show as well. Anyway, so here we have right here Paulo Nanmolo firing a few off today, basically just talking about, oh gosh, he fired more than a few off. Okay, let's get back in when it comes to the situation, the ongoing situation when it comes to really the courting of Milinkovic-Savic. Basically, he just kind of urinated on our parade. At this point, it seems like Milinkovic-Savic may be a non-starter, saying, basically he was reporting saying, talking to Kesman, they're offering 4 years, plus one at $5 million net, plus one is the easy part. What has changed? Has someone from Juve sat down with Lotito? No. Then we were talking about nothing. Lotito is not Camiso in running the business, as in it's not one of those things where when he says it, he's sticking with it in one of those moments. As well as, and then the other comments basically just saying that Lotito is now letting PSG and Manchester United know that Milinkovic-Savic can leave and that he no longer asks for the $100 million that he used to, but it's still too much for Juventus. So there's our happy day.
I'm getting really irritated with these journalists, man. It's like we look at it, and I'm kind of really annoyed with the club where it's like, okay, so you guys have been talking to SMS for his contract for the last 2 years. Why aren't you at least trying to pull Lotito to the table? Like, that to me shows how much like the club is really excited about SMS if they're not even talking to the guy that's going to essentially authorize the deal. Like, do you guys even want him, or is this just kind of like a facade that they're putting up just to get more stuff?
Yeah, and that's I forgot the first part where he said Juve have been talking to Kesman for 2 years, but at no point have they ever sat down with Lotito. What steps? There's no steps going forward if you can't get close to him. Nobody's done it until then. It's cinema. So yeah, I don't know if it's a Lotito shutting down any kind of conversation. If he's saying I don't even want to come sit down with Juventus, or if it's a situation where, I mean, let's not kid ourselves. Agnelli can be a little bit high-strung too sometimes when it comes to relationships or poor relationships, and maybe not doing the best to mend those fences. Though I don't know what it would take to mend fences with a guy like Lotito. What he wants,
Yeah, and that's the thing there. So, like, for example, if Agnelli knows he's not going to sit down and talk to Lotito, then look at another target. Stop wasting our time with SMS. We need to figure out what we want to get, and we have to start running in July 1st when it officially opens. We need to have our splash midfielder in and ready for a medical, ready to go, and then we need to build around that midfielder. Like, if this happens like Locatelli did last year, where we're sitting there in August not knowing what our big splash midfielder, that to me is like, I'm gonna absolutely lose it with this club and Nedved and Agnelli and all them, because it's like, guys, like, either you talk to Lotito and you either get an affirmative no, that means, okay, cool, we're not going after this guy. We need to either look at some alternatives or try to talk to Pogba instead of dragging this on. I mean, we don't know how true everything is right now as far as like reporting goes, but if I were the club, I need to sort this out in the next month and a half, because Pogba's not going to sit there and wait. So if you're going to essentially make a move for Pogba, because we all know, let's be honest, everybody, Pogba's option B. The club is just kind of like, we want him.
He should be. He should be, to be honest.
Yeah.
He's what? Yeah, 1B. He's 1B.
Yeah.
Let's say that. He's up there, but he's still.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with the club for having that philosophy, but what I do disagree with the club is like the club's sitting on their hands and they're just waiting for something to happen, like Lotito to call the phone and say, "Hey, SMS is wanting to come to you guys." It's not going to happen, and I think Agnelli's too prideful to even make that phone call too. So
yeah,
it's on our board to sit there and open up those discussions, because hey, top midfielders are running out fast. I know we don't consider him a top one, but Manchester United is about to pull Frankie de Jong out from Barcelona. They're working on getting a deal going because he's going to go play under Ten Hag. So
yeah, and I'm glad
you guys go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I'm glad you brought that up, because that was the next thing I want to step up to and just say, so yeah, that report also by Paulo Nunmolo, who, like, really when it comes to anybody, like, to me, I think he's the most down to earth when it comes to just talking about the Mercado and talking about Juventus, compared to a lot of these reporters that want to get, they want to get their little quick snippet out there. They don't want to get the, it's possible to Juventus. What does that mean? Kind of things. Like he kind of puts his name a little bit more on it. So I do appreciate that a little bit. Though, I know everybody has a little bit of nonsense when it comes to it. But when it came to De Jong, he did say, I have too much realism today to think about Frankie de Jong coming to Juventus because of the costs, but especially time with his agent they talked about in January. They were discussing Zakaria, then no more. So basically, and that's kind of like the way I've gone about it too, is that when it came to Zakaria, that was kind of your choice between the two, and it doesn't, not that they're equivalent, but at the same time, when you got Zakaria, it kind of meant you were moving in a different direction than Frankie de Jong in the summer. As well as all the heating up that's been going along with Barcelona, Manchester United, as you said, with Frankie de Jong. It's this weird dance that's going on right now between Juventus, Manchester United, and PSG, and it's all angling to see who's going to get what. And right now, it's because it's between the three of them for like multiple players. Milinkovic-Savic, Frankie de Jong now, really with Juventus and Barcelona. I don't know that I've seen anything with PSG, but it wouldn't surprise me. And then also Milinkovic-Savic, obviously all three of them. I think I may have said that first. And then Pogba, picking between basically PSG or Juventus. They've thrown out the idea of Real Madrid, but it seems that's not really a feasible option or a likely option.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if he did go to Real Madrid, because Eduardo Camavinga is essentially kind of like a younger Pogba that's over there, and he's actually playing very well. So I'd be surprised. And that's the thing where this club needs to figure out what they want to do and how they want to go about it. Because the thing is it takes one call from PSG to say, "Hey, Pogba, we'll give you 12 million a season," and Pogba's off the table, and then Lotito's not going to budge on SMS, so he's off the table. De Jong's gone to Man U. Who are we going to go for as far as, a stud midfielder? So the club's got to figure out what they want and how they're going to go about it and start putting in that process in motion. And that's the one thing that I'm worried about is if we're sitting on our hands hoping to try to get a deal in or a certain kind of economical package, we might miss out. So I think the board needs to sit together with Elkin too and say, hey, this is what we need to get ourselves back here. This is what we want to go. You as an owner, are you willing to help us get there? Or do we have to, be mediocre for 2 or 3 years, balance the books, and then take the splash? Or are we going to jump up right away? So it's honestly, this is a whole front office thing, and the front office has to iterate what their objectives is, because Elkin can sit there and say, hey, I'll give you the time and resources for the club to get back to their glory days. What does that mean? Like, are we going for Serie A or are we going for Champions League? So if we're going for Champions League, you got to put that project in place, because there's only a certain amount of windows. And right now, I think that the window for the Champions League is open because there isn't a destructive team like a Real Madrid or Barcelona in the 2010s. I think it's an open Champions League where for the next couple of years, anyone can win it. I think the only team that's able to make that juggernaut is City. But with Guardiola, I'm a little bit skeptical on that. So it's open season right now for the Champions League. So the board needs to figure out what they want to go for.
Yeah, first up, guys, we had like I think at least we have a good amount of people. We've had about 40 in here for quite a bit. If you guys haven't smashed the like button, please do hit the like button. It really does help us with the algorithm to grow and all that nonsense along with that. Just hit the like button, and also 45 people you voted in the poll, and 24 of you are liars. So that's all I want to say. Hit the like button. But basically going off of what you were saying there with the whole situation going on. I'm sorry. Real quick, brain fart, because the last thing you just mentioned, you were talking about, name the player. Why am I blanking?
Which one?
The very last thing you said. Somebody.
Talking about City being, or I'm talking about the Champions League.
Oh yeah, thank you. Sorry, like I said, there's 1,000 things going on in here one time. I'm also running this thing. It's if you guys see it, it's a lot of work. So I'm trying to. It's hard to keep your mind sharp the whole time. Okay, thank you. That clears up things. Do you take? And here's the question I want to ask you, because I feel like I understand that kind of mindset when it comes to basically like if you're in the Premier League. It takes a lot more to win that league than it does to win Serie A. I think that's just, I think we all can agree on that. Do you think that Juventus, because see, I kind of view it as like, I kind of view it almost that like Serie A should be a prerequisite to winning the Champions League. Maybe not, but maybe, also Serie A has gotten better in the last couple of years, or at least Juventus have gotten worse. When it comes to the competition, it's not what it used to be. Juventus can't just run roughshod all over it. I almost view it as like, and maybe I'm just setting my standards differently, but I look at it as like Juventus should win Serie A, and then we can worry about Champions League again. Is that a wrong way to look at it, or is it the makeup of the squad?
So I don't disagree with you on that mindset, because like the thing is like, for any Italian team to have any kind of favorites status in the Champions League, they're going to have to dominate their league. Like, for example, even though Inter won the league last year, they weren't even considered top 10 favorites to win it, maybe like 11, maybe 10. So it's like, yeah, I understand that like we're going to have to focus on winning the league first, and kind of essentially we honestly have to dominate Serie A, like kind of how we did in the last decade, to really be able to throw in our sticks in the hat for the Champions League, because we do play less games, and we also like compared to the Premier League, because the Premier League's got a bigger budget, they play more games, so their squads are naturally bigger than ours. So like for example, we play less games, we technically have a smaller operating budget, so smaller whatnot. So for us to really get into it, and it's like Bayern Munich. So like the perfect example for this is the Bundesliga. So like for example, Bayern Munich are very, very good at winning the Bundesliga, where it's almost like second nature for them. So they're able to actually start thinking about, okay, how do we go for the Champions League? So like, because what their business model is essentially buy all the good players that are on the teams below them, put them into Bayern, so no one's going to challenge them, so they can steadfast focus on to the Champions League. It's a double-edged sword, because you're not getting challenged by good competition. So like for example, PSG suffers from that, where the quality from their league is so below from them that when they get punched in the mouth, they don't know how to handle it. That's why, like for example, Real Madrid and Barcelona, and you can even throw Atletico Madrid on there, they're very, very good in the Champions League, because they know how to handle getting punched in the mouth, just because they do it to each other so well. Where it's like City and Liverpool, my concern with them is it's just those two in the Premier League, and then everyone else is just kind of there. Like you can throw Chelsea into the equation. So those two are used to dominating the Premier League, or just dominating because of their style of play. But we saw when Real Madrid came at them those last couple minutes at the end of that game, City didn't know what to do. They're like, whoa, I can't. And then it's the same thing with the game at the Etihad. Even though Real lost by a goal, they still just kept coming at Man City, and Guardiola was just kind of like, hey, we just need to finish this game and move on to the second leg. And then the same thing with Villarreal and Liverpool. Like Liverpool did not expect to get popped in the mouth for 45 minutes from Villarreal to tie that game up. Those guys were already cruise controlling to the final. So for teams, it's like dominating your league is the first prerequisite to doing very well in the Champions League, because usually it's the league champions that are always in the Elite Eight, or the quarterfinals or the semifinals. I mean, you'll get like the straggler that makes it there that shouldn't be there, but
the cream should overall rise to the top of that situation, for sure.
Because like we look at the quarterfinals, this year we had Real Madrid, which is a league winner. We had I think PSG was in the quarters or the round of 16, but no, Chelsea was.
Yeah,
was
because
Chelsea.
PSG embarrassed themselves
Yeah.
early.
Yep, they round of 16 exited. So you had Bayern Munich, you had PSG, or not PSG, you had Chelsea. Sorry,
Yeah,
everybody. Real Madrid, you had City
Liverpool.
and Liverpool. So I mean, Liverpool is a cup winner. They won the EFL Cup and they're in the final for the FA Cup, and they're still in it for the Premier League. So you have those teams that are competing for the leagues. The
Hmm.
only champion that wasn't there was Italy because unfortunately, let's be honest, Serie A is just not up to par yet. And
Yeah.
this year we took a huge step back as far as quality wise because our perfect example is the group stages. So, like
Well,
for example, go ahead.
no, I was just to say it's one of those situations where when the league's not, when Juventus are not good, the league's not perceived as good either, and
Yeah,
that's the biggest part. That's one of our biggest problems, and one of the burdens that Juventus bears is that Juventus needs to be. It needs to be the top of the league. You can't have another season of barely finishing in the top four, and to get any kind of respect for Italy, especially if you care about that. Maybe not everybody cares about that. I don't know. I'm at this point right now where it's kind of like, who cares? Who cares about the rest of the league? I only care about how Juventus is perceived, not how Milan, Inter, Bologna, or whoever else
yeah,
are viewed as. I don't care. You can run roughshod over bums all day, but the problem is, you see what happens with PSG. I mean, they've got other issues, but when you're just playing against, I hate using the farmers term, but you know what I mean. You're just running wild all over these teams, and then when you come up against competition and you get slapped a little bit, then you just back down because you don't know how to deal with adversity in that situation. And
yeah.
that's where I go into.
And then the other, go ahead.
What I was gonna say is, what am I? It's your show. It's your show. I want to
No.
let you hit. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I can get wordy. I'm good because like today's been a long day, so I appreciate you talking. And you've got a lot of great points that I'd like to hear and take in as well, and steal from you later. No, I'm kidding. But one of the things I kind of look at it too is one of the biggest issues with Juventus right now. I mean, it's a culture issue, and a lot of that goes into different pieces. It doesn't just do the coaching and his system and the way that he, if it's a, you could say a dinosaur league or whatever you want to say, with his defensive mind first, and not an anemic offense. There's so many aspects of it. The players are soft. They don't have, like you said, they don't have that kind of, you can say green tail, you can call it whatever you want, but that kind of, that passion, that kind of rough nose, whatever, I hate using this American football term, hand in the dirt kind of mentality of like, get out there and rough somebody up. You see a lot of guys, they deal with a little bit and they get pushed down, and that's what I worry about. You lose a guy like Chiellini who has a little bit of that attitude and that kind of, personality, and you got a lot of young, soft guys. And that's what I worry about. What happens from there? Because you need somebody to be tough and to guide them on the pitch as well. We talked about who's going to be the captain, who's going to be leadership, and not just the captain. I don't care about. I mean, I care about who wears the armband, but it's not just about that. It's about who's the guy who's going to be able to lead this team when they need to. I don't know if Delict's going to be able to be that guy. You hope so. There's been little bits of stuff, but he's still young. And he's still young. He's still got a long way to go. Bonucci, unfortunately, should be the guy, but Bonucci doesn't command the respect that Chiellini does.
Yeah, and Bonucci is known for saying some of the dumbest things ever too. So like you have to put that into effect. It's going to be tough, man, because like we're seriously transitioning from like old hens to young guns, and it's not even like, for example, a young gun that's been there and it's been built up. The only one that I know that's literally been there young and built up is Delict, and that's the only person. Yep. Like for example, Locatelli's coming off his freshman season, so it's like that too. Chiesa, I mean, he was injured for half the season too, where he's still kind of coming into his own because they're all young guys, and it's honestly, it's important to have it, like to have those young or those older veterans, because like for example, let's look at PSG and City. So those are two teams that spend a crap ton of money and overpay their players. So for them, they're there to, most of those players are there to pick up the check and nothing else. You don't see the ambition in PSG. And there's some players in City, and like if you guys actually pay attention to Man City's actually starting to implement a wage structure, a salary cap on players, because they kind of realize that, hey, sometimes we're overpaying for some of these guys and we need to actually limit it. So like for example, right now Kevin De Bruyne is their highest earner, and that's it. I think Haaland might be the only exception to that rule, but like when they're looking at new players now, they're like, hey, if you're not, because KDB is their leader essentially, and no one really like says it out loud, but like Kevin De Bruyne is like the glue that holds that team together. So it's like those teams, like for example, compared to us, it's like you got to have those guys. Like for example, if you look at Real Madrid right now is the idealistic how a team is as far as player wise, where you have those three in the middle: Casemiro, Modric, and Kroos. those are your guys, and Benzema as well included.
Yeah.
Like those four guys are your guys that are sitting there. Like for example, if we all remember when Vinicius came into Real Madrid, the guy that was doing ridiculous step overs, and Benzema literally told his midfielders mid game, do not pass to him because he does not know what he's doing. Where it's like you see him come of age after developing under these old guys, and like that Madrid team is like, you have to give your hats off to them, and you can give it to Ancelotti as well. But like what those old guys, and that's what we should have did at Juve. But the problem is we had too many manager switches, so we didn't have a fundamental mindset of how we're going to go. And a lot of our older players kind of just got up and left. Like for example, Buffon, Barzagli, and then now Chiellini. So it's like we never really had that like the new up and coming guys get mentored by them. The only person that actually got mentored properly was De Ligt. Like for example, Demiral, we all thought Demiral was going to be a piece that was going to get mentored, but we shipped him out in a less than a year of having them.
It was. I mean, it was also kind of one of those situations though where like we needed to find the funds, open up the funds somehow. And I mean, I'll say when I say that, I don't know how accurate that is. I have to be honest because there are funds to be found. There are funds to be found even without selling people. But at the same time, I don't. I wonder what other situations may be going there. You also look at what's going on with Demiral and how he plays, and if that's something that can
defensively
relied upon. Yeah.
Yeah, defensively, the dude plays like a donkey. I mean, he just throws himself.
You can't be drop kicking every player that's around you kind of situation. Yeah. You're going to get yellow card left and right. Real quick, sorry. Time out on you real quick. I did want to touch on this because I threw it up here. Sion was saying we just keep on stacking midfielders while other areas need improvement. The problem is we've gotten midfielders, but we need that midfielder. We don't need midfielders. We need a superstar is really the word to use, but we need a big time midfielder. We don't need just some solid pieces. We need a guy to rely on. You have Vlahovic in the attack. You have De Ligt in there in the defense. You need that kind of guy in the midfield, and we don't have that right now. And that's why we say that. I understand needing the other pieces. They're going to work on that as well. But the midfield needs improvement. I mean, I don't know how you can watch the game and see nothing be created for how long and say that we don't need midfield right now. Or say we don't need to focus on that.
Yeah, well, and the thing is with that too is like you have to stack the midfielder because those are essentially your engine room of your team. Where it's like, for example, they're the ones that you need to have proper substitutions and proper coverage for, because midfielders are probably the most injury-prone positions in the entire game, just because of the amount of minutes that they play and what they do. Because you're going back and up and down, tracking back and forth. So you need that one guy that's your leader of your midfield room, and then you also need players that play to that midfielder style to build around it. And then you're also going to be needing, for example, other things to pour into it. So let's use an example as the Berlusconi's AC Milan from 2000 to 2007. So their midfield room was stacked, and they also had great substitutes because the midfield was the engine room. So you had Pirlo, that was your deep lying playmaker, Gattuso, that was your box to box, Kaká was kind of like an attacking midfielder hybrid striker, and I believe they alternated because I'm not a big Milan fan, so I don't know who the fourth one was, but they also had players that would cycle into that thing, and they were able to cycle and bring things in and out. And then because you had Inzaghi, who wasn't like, he was a great poacher but wasn't like your build through striker, and then they had Pato, and then they had Shevchenko for a couple of years. But it's one of those things where if you have a great midfielder, any midfielder can make your forwards look good. Because the thing is they're able to pull threats in from the defense as well as from the midfield perspective, and it opens up the game a lot better. Like, for example, Trent Alexander-Arnold's not a great defender, but the fact that he can go up and cause havoc essentially opens up room for Salah, because I believe Trent and Salah play on the same side of the pitch. So like, for example, when you're that left back of that other team and you see Salah and Trent Alexander-Arnold coming at you, you don't know what to do. So then that forces a midfielder to drop in, or that forces another center back to pull in, and then that opens up Mane, it opens up Firmino, it opens up other things. Right now we don't have players that people respect outside of Vlahovic and Chiesa on the front, where it's like, oh, hey, we need to make sure someone's on there. So, like, for example, in the comments, everyone's like, why do we have to man-mark Brozovic every time we play Inter? Because Brozovic is a dual-threat midfielder that can open you up with a good pass and can shoot from distance. So you have to respect that. Whereas we don't have the player that a team's like, hey, we need to man-mark them. Like, let's be real here. Outside of Vlahovic and then maybe Chiesa when Chiesa played, like, there isn't someone where the other coach is saying, hey, I need to have a distinct person man-mark this. Because in the Premier League, they have players that their specific job is to man-mark a player. Or like, for example, back then when we had Pogba back in 2015, that season that he was just absolutely unreal before he went to Man U, you could actually watch some teams physically put a bigger player on Pogba to try to obstruct him because Pogba was really tiny at that time. So like even then with Dybala too, because like I know watching Dybala play his early seasons, he was really good, but he was getting hit a lot because they were specifically saying, "Hey, you're the heat-seeking missile. I need you to focus in on that guy."
Yep.
So building that midfielder, having that threat in the middle of the park essentially opens up the game for you because he's going to draw attention. So he's either going to pull their best midfielder on him. So like, for example, say that we have SMS and we're playing against Inter in hypotheticals here. Brozovic has to watch SMS because SMS is going to demolish anyone else. I think he demolished Barella. So you're going to either have to have Barella and Brozovic focus in on him just to cover that. So then if you pull Brozovic and Barella out of position, that opens the spot for a McKennie, that opens the spot up for Zakaria, that opens the spot for someone on that middle of the park that they can move and start moving through. Like, for example, our midfield that we went into the Champions League final against Barcelona when we had Marquisio, Vidal, Pirlo, and then I think our offensive midfielder, I forgot who it was, but Pogba. So when we had those four.
That's an easy one to forget, right?
Duh.
Yeah.
Brain fart. So like when we had those four, like especially when we were playing that prime Madrid team too in the semifinal, they weren't sure who to mark because the thing is like they could hit them anywhere. Pirlo could hit them with a deep pass, so they didn't know where to put they didn't know where to put Modric or Kroos because they're like, wait, where are we watching? Because Pogba had a distance shot and he can also dribble, so they were stuck on that as well. Same thing with Marquisio. So like if you were able to have one of those guys in this current team, that opens up the midfield, because the thing is when you have the it guy there, that takes pressure off the little guys for them to do their job. Whereas like, for example, if you don't have that it guy, it puts an equal amount of pressure on some of your players, and the little guys are little guys for a reason because they're not made for that big time appearance. Yeah. So sometimes they might crumble under pressure and it completely flattens out your midfield.
Yeah. Real quick, I want to touch on this. Forza UA was saying even if we won the Scudetto, I would want Allegri out. We can't compete in Europe playing Allegri ball. I mean, first off, it's proven not to be true because I mean he made finals. he made literally the finals with Allegri. At the same time, I understand what you're saying, and I don't know if maybe times are changing, and maybe Allegri, we'll see. He's getting another season. We'll see what happens. Maybe it's possible that the game, quote unquote, the game passes him by. We'll see what happens, but I don't know if I believe that. And he needs to get the players that he can utilize, and I want to see him get a system in. But also, I need to see the effort that he's putting in an actual system, that he's actually doing something instead of just throwing stuff out there.
Yeah, and I strongly disagree with that as well because, like, I believe who else is Allegri compared to? Unai Emery, Villarreal's coach. So he was the architect of the failure of the 6-1 remontada that Barcelona did against PSG. He was PSG's coach at the time. Everybody laughed at him. Everyone thought his coaching career was over. Goes to Villarreal, beats Manchester United for the Europa League last year, beats us in the Champions League round of 16, and then proceeds to beat Bayern Munich by playing a defensive, ugly, counterattacking football. And then if they didn't let the gas pedal against Liverpool, they might have beat Liverpool because they came back from 2-0 down against Liverpool to tie it by halftime. So the thing is the only time where you can say that ugly defensive style doesn't work in Europe is Conte, because Conte is the only coach that's employed that kind of stuff and actually failed at it. But like, for example, Jose Mourinho in the past literally did the same thing. He won Inter the treble with it. So like those defensive coaches it's ugly, and I don't really understand why a lot of people have kind of moved on to this we have to play beautiful football or bust kind of mentality, where it's like you look at Guardiola, he plays beautiful, but what happens? Fumbles a goal lead with 2 minutes left. Like, I mean, you look at it, it's a double-edged sword. And outside of that, where everyone was saying Klopp played beautiful football, he got hammered by Bayern Munich when he was with Dortmund. And he actually lost his gig at Dortmund because he just wasn't performing well and just kind of got a resurgence at Liverpool. So it's like, I don't understand why the modern game is looking towards more aesthetics than results, because like we look at some of these really good teams where it's like, they weren't beautiful playing teams. Like Zidane with his Real Madrid wasn't like they were going to outpossess you and tiki-taka you into oblivion. They just hit you hard and fast before you even realize you got hit.
Yeah.
The only teams that played beautiful... Go ahead.
No, let me just interject real quick. Pure Blood and Proud... Well, that's a dangerous name. I don't know what that means. But it sounds dangerous when I'm reading that. Anyway, PP, we'll just say that. OPP. I was saying, how long ago were those finals? I mean, I don't know how old you are. I mean, maybe, I mean, I understand it's been a little bit, but I mean, Allegri also hasn't been in coaching since he left Juventus. He literally hasn't been coaching since then. So you have no data in that time to prove. I mean, obviously, yes, he hasn't been coaching. What does that say about the coach? But at the same time, you have no data to pull from that says that he would just fail. And also, Juventus outside of, I understand, it again was around a 16 loss. But outside of that, Juventus actually looked really good in the Champions League. They looked really good until they bailed out against Villarreal. I thought they, compared to how they played in the Serie A, especially early on, I was shocked at how well they played. So I understand what you're saying. It's been a little bit, but honestly, I mean, 2015 or whatever, it's not that long ago for me. Like, it's not that long ago. Like, I understand for some people, it's if you're young, it's forever ago. But to me, that's not that long. And that's something I want to touch on.
Technically, if we're looking at Allegri's like timeline, so like so it was roughly 6 years ago. So like Allegri wasn't coaching for 2, so it's like 4 years of Allegri's coaching career. And even then, like the years after, he had a really good run. It was literally a penalty that saved Real Madrid against that Real Madrid in the quarterfinals that year, and then just that miracle Ajax team that beat them. So it was that. I mean, we came back against. And I think that was an Atletico Madrid that just recently won the Europa League too, that we came back down 2-0. And those guys were known as defensive. Diego Simeone is known for being an extremely defensive coach that is just miraculous at being a defensive masterclass guy. And we beat him 3-0 at home. So it's like Allegri can do stuff in the Champions League. It's not like he just sits there and plays 10 back and just hopes for a result.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not. Well, I mean, again, a lot of this can come from different sports, and I understand. But there's plenty of coaches, and I see this all the time. American football, basketball, soccer, whatever you want to say it. I see this that happens with coaches that are pretty well respected, where they think either, I hate to use the term game passing by or whatever happens. I don't buy into that. I don't think you forget how to coach. I don't think that happens. We'll see if maybe the system doesn't end up working, but I want to see what happens this next season when he gets a couple guys that he can maybe utilize, that he actually feels confident in, and then we can crush him. I mean, we're still crushing him. I'm still going to crush him, trust me, with what we're seeing. But at the same time, first off, I'm also in the boat where I understand where Juventus is. They're not making a move. Like, I understand, like, maybe you're still in the idea that they can do it and they can change right now. Like, they're going to go out and they're going to go get somebody else right now. Who are they going to go get? Who would be the guy that you're going to get? Do you want Pirlo back? Is that the situation you want? It's not going to happen. It doesn't make sense for the team. You need some kind of established concurrency here to move on, to build off of. Again, I understand it doesn't look like there's a lot to build off of. But just give us some kind of... what's the word I'm looking for? Help me out here.
I would say put some perspective. Like let's be honest here. So, like, for example, this feeling that we're feeling right now, what is it essentially a result of us being super successful and winning? Because the thing is when you're part of a winning franchise, winning is like cocaine to you. Where it's like the second you don't get it, you have that nasty withdrawal. And last year and this year is like we're going to Alcoholics Anonymous trying to figure out why we quit drinking. So it's like it's one of those things where right now that's a byproduct of winning. So it's like once you get back up to where it's going to take time to get back to where you were. It's just because we're so used to it, because we won, 4 years that we won the domestic double. Every single time, no contest. We won 9 champions Scudettos in a row. We went to the Champions League finals twice. Yep. So in that 10-year stint, and there's a lot of fans that were brought into Juve because of that stint, where we gained a lot of fans because of it, where it's like now it's like the first time that they've experienced it, and it kind of feels weird and they don't know what to do. So, like, for example, Justin and we've been fans since the Serie B days, the days where we came back up and we were just absolutely terrible, and it was the 2 years. I still remember when we lost to Fulham in the Europa League, where Clint Dempsey somehow just pulled a masterclass out of his behind and smoked us in it. And I was also there for Conte when he bottled a chance to go to the Europa League in 2013 because he wanted to break the 100-point Serie A season record and cost us a Europa League final in our own stadium to Benfica. I've been through all of that. So it's one of those things where it's we're in that little lull, and like every good franchise takes about a year or two to in that lull before they start competing again. Like Barcelona's a great example of it. Barcelona's been terrible for the last year and a half, 2 years. They're going up in an upward trajectory, whether we like to admit it or not. Same thing with Real Madrid. When Ronaldo left, they had a lull for about 2 or 3 years, and now they're back in the Champions League final again. They've retooled, and their fan bases know it. And I think Real Madrid is the strictest fan base ever, because a fan base can literally just spit at a coach during a game and he'll get fired at the end of the season. Like for them, if it's Champions League, for Real, it's Champions League or bust. They don't even care about the league. So like it's one of those things where, hey, like we're there, we're in that thing. We have the same expectations, but we also have to ride it out, because Sarri's year was the last year that we were essentially considered a contender for the Champions League. When Pirlo came in, we weren't in that contender status. That was essentially when Zidane left Real Madrid and they got Lopetegui as their coach, where no one expected them to compete, and rightfully so, they didn't. So they got that, and then it was 1 year of Zidane to kind of try to put the boat back together, and then and everyone's kind of yelling at the chat saying, stop saying Ancelotti is an elite coach. I get that. It is what it is. I'm not going to disagree with that statement, but it's one of those things where you just take a year or two, get the right tools, the right pieces. Because, like, for example, right now, Real Madrid built back their subs, their back line, and even their forwards with Rodrigo and Vinicius were able to come in and develop. So it's one of those things where us as Juve fans, we got to just like, hey, relax. We've been here before. We'll be back on top again. I remember when people thought when Marcelo Lippi left as our coach, oh no, Juventus is in shambles and blah, blah, blah. And we came back. It's just how we are. It's just the Juve DNA. So it's like,
it's always, it's the program's bigger. The club is bigger than any single person. I mean, bigger than a coach, bigger than a player, whatever have you. And I think it is easy to get built up in the motion of, like, I know a lot of people did it when Ronaldo left. I'm like, the Ronaldo years were not the good years. Like, let's not kid ourselves. The years we had Ronaldo were not the good years. I understand. It was fun having a big time name that everybody looked to, but maybe Italian football wasn't valued as much as it had, kind of thing. And it brought some value there, but at the same time, it also brought a lot of negative things, not just on the pitch.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you were on the channel for the months until he was gone, there was a lot of negativity there. I don't know, maybe there's still some Ronaldo people hanging around, lurking about here on the channel. Guys, real quick, can we get us to 30 likes? Just get us to 30 likes. I mean, I'm not asking a lot. I'm not begging. I'm not too proud to beg though. But just get us to the likes. Just get us to 30 likes. I'd appreciate that. Like I said, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, go slap grandma up, take her phone, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, all that good stuff. She wants to learn about you. Your old lady wants to know about the old lady. Anyway.
Also, share the video. YouTube's algorithm changed, guys. So, like, YouTube is valuing the share more than the likes. Shares and comments.
Yes, thank you. Please do. Yeah, definitely do share the video. Other people. That's how we get more people. That's how we get more, a bigger fan base, bigger people to talk to, bigger community overall. If you've seen, you're a part of our member squad. I talked about the member squad earlier. Consider joining it. You got a lot of cool benefits from it. You know what? I'll do it right now. I'll throw it up here. We're at the hour mark of the video so far. But anyway, you get a lot of cool stuff from it. Dash is a member of our channel. You get loyalty badges at the lowest thing. You get emojis. You get the Discord member chat, which is really cool. That's where you get a lot of that social aspect. Maybe you live in an area like I do. I live in Louisville, Kentucky. There are not a lot of Juventus fans here. You get a lot of that when you get to actually have a Discord chat, a community of people to chat with nonstop, talking Juventus, talking the happenings, talking about the U23 today, and stuff like that going on. As well as you jump up to the next level, you get the monthly wallpaper, and then the next one, you get a 5-time premium opportunity to end up winning in our next giveaway, which I imagine will be not too long from now. Stay tuned for that for sure. But anyway, a lot of cool stuff. It's cheaper than a cup of coffee that you spend at overly priced coffee places like Starbucks every day. That's the one way that I've been saying out there. So definitely check that out. Consider joining the squad if you haven't already. You get a lot of cool stuff. Your name gets highlighted. We'll definitely read your chats and stuff like that whenever you throw them in there. And I think also, this is one of those things that's definitely being floated out there right now, that we're being talked about. We're not sure we have to apply for it, but it looks like we'll be able to eventually gift membership. So it's an opportunity that technically you can give like a free month kind of thing to people to check out the membership kind of option down the line. But I mean, what do you think? Do you think it's worth it? Do you think it's a decent experience, especially as a Juventus fan? I don't know how many Juventus fans are in your area.
So, like, the funny thing about Michigan is, like, so there used to be the AC Milan club here. So, like, they actually used to bring in youth players and develop them here. So there's a lot of AC Milan fans, definitely a lot of Inter fans. See, the thing is like, we had a bunch of, so my area, there's a lot more of Ronaldo fans. So, like, for the 2-3 years that Ronaldo's at Juventus, when I'd be playing pickup, you just see a bunch of Juve Ronaldo jerseys, and I'm like, cringe. But yeah, there was a couple. Like, I mean, I know, like, out of my college, when I was in college, there was like 40 Inter fans, 30 Milan fans, and like 4 or 5 Juve fans. So it's like, in the U.S., it's weird. The Milano clubs are marketed more, especially like, because, like, for example, Kobe Bryant was a big fan of AC Milan, so Kobe Bryant used to always just like market those guys. And I'm surprised how Inter made it over here, but they're surprisingly popular in Michigan as well too.
Yeah, I mean, living obviously like Kentucky, it's like the place where you're never going to hear any kind of soccer. You mention soccer, and people are like, "What the hell is that, boy?" But like, I think when overall, Milan was the team that I knew about. Milan was the first one that I had heard about, that I actually looked into before then, and then it was because of Del Piero Buffon and their performances there in like 06 and all that, and then obviously before then are the times when I really think about, like, that's when Juventus, like, you really hear about Juve. Before that, you really didn't, and even until Ronaldo came there, you didn't. And I remember going through, drinking late night, you go to Taco Bell, and there'd be a dude, I had a Juventus hat on or something like that, and he'd mention, he's like, "Oh, he'd say it in a way that's not the correct way to pronounce it, but he'd talk about Juventus, and I'd be like, yeah, he's like, Ronaldo. I'm like, no, bro, that's not what we're here about. But yeah, it's every single time I'd be disappointed. It'd always be a Ronaldo fan who's just telling me how much they love Ronaldo, and that's why they're like Juventus now.
It's one of those things, and I think the chat can, like, hey, like, hit a like or put a 1 in the chat if you're just like going out in public and you see someone wearing like some Juve merchandise that's like not Ronaldo-esque, and you just kind of look at that guy and you're just like, just give him that nod in public. That's usually what would happen here.
It's very, very rare for sure. Anyway, let me see. Before we end up wrapping this up, there are a couple other things I did want to bring up. Let me make sure. Some of this we may end up saving for later. We talked about that. I mean, anything you want to talk about when it came to basically? What did you make of the Lautaro penalty? I feel like I had to bring it up. My main issue is, how the hell, if you're a ref, do you look at that on VAR and give that penalty? How do you give that? Like, how do you see him slip his foot in there, and you see him set himself up? Like, I don't know. I don't get it.
So the angle that we saw, the new angle that was like that aerial one by the drone right there, they were saying that angle wasn't available at the time where the ref was looking at VAR.
Why the hell not? Why was it not?
That's what I'm saying. So it's like, I was watching it on Paramount Plus, and that's not a shameless plug at all. But so I was watching the game on that, and then they're like, the entire game up until that moment, we have 35 cameras all over the stadium. We have 35 cameras all over the stadium. By the way, we have 35 cameras over the stadium. And the only angle they had was the angle that showed us Bonucci's butt and his leg going in between Bonucci's legs. And then, like, and I had to wait until post game. And then, like, the funny thing is, the commentators, when that new angle came in, they're like, "Oh, crap." So it's like, how, and that's my issue with VAR at all, where it's like, how do you not have all the angles present? Because, like, the thing is let's be real here. If we look at it from the Bonucci's butt cheek angle, it looks like a pen. So, like, if we look at it from the, I don't want to say the swear word because we'll get demonetized, but, like, the A cam, it looks like a penalty. But, like, when you turn it around and you look at it, where you literally see Lautaro plant his foot down, Delic kind of just, like, it's a nudge. It's not even enough to obstruct him. And then Lautaro sees Bonucci behind him, so he wraps his leg around Bonucci as the ball's up to his chest level. And then, like, he tugs Bonucci's leg, because you can see the tugging motion, to make it look like he's obstructing it and falling. And then that right there is clear and obvious that that's a simulation. So, like, if anything, that shouldn't have been a penalty. Lautaro should have got a yellow card for simulating. I don't know if they give out yellow cards for VAR. I thought it's only a red card review, but that was the one thing. The second thing that rubbed me the wrong way was Brozovic essentially stopping a counterattack from Dybala, taking a yellow card, then proceeding to take the ball and boot it 50 yards the opposite way. So that's technically a double yellow because, one, you're stopping a counter, a dangerous attack, so that's automatically a yellow card.
Yep.
Two, if you read the FIFA rulebook, if a player is taking the ball after a whistle has blown and deliberately kicking it out, because that wasn't an accidental, he picked it up with his hands and booted it, that is an automatic yellow card and he would have been sent off.
Yep.
I don't want to sit here and say that we lost because of the refs, because it is what it is.
No,
but
yeah.
like when you look at it, those two calls, and it always happens for some reason recently since we started playing those guys, but like it's one of those things where, dude, come on, man, like I expected better from the officiating crew.
It's I think definitely blaming it completely on refs is a loser mentality. Juventus should never put them in the situation where they're losing because of that. And I mean, technically, if you look at it, they didn't, because Perisic got that other goal and hit a banger. I mean, that was a hell of a goal. But at the same time, what's frustrating is just, I mean, I call it fraudulence, I call it whatever you want to say. It's just looking at it. Like, I don't think you have to be biased either way to look at that and be like, how are you making that call? It makes zero sense to me. And I just think there needs to be some sense of accountability. And that's the one thing I have a big problem with. And I don't know. I mean, I'm still a little bit foreign. Like it literally is foreign to me because it's Italy. But like the way Italian football's run, the FIGC, all the nonsense going on. We talked about that recently. We talked about all the stuff, the little shots they take at Juventus, and the things that happen when it comes to some calls. And I'm not trying to say Juventus they don't get calls sometimes, but especially recently, the way some of these calls have gone, like, there's got to be some kind of background checking. There's got to be some kind of holding refs accountable. I know the day when the day comes that you'll actually have a ref speak after a game will be the first time it ever happens in any sport. But at the same time, it's just frustrating to see, and it's frustrating to like nobody after the fact reviewing it and saying that was the wrong call. That was a bad call. These guys are fine. These guys are suspended for whatever it takes. That's what happens in most leagues. Happens in the NBA. Happens in the NFL. You don't really see.
Yeah, well,
really.
in the top four sports in the U.S., I mean, the refs' comments are published like the day or two after. Like, and it's like even and it's in the irony of it is too with Serie A refs. Like, I remember when the NFL had the referee lockout, so we had those like cheap replacement refs, and like those were like fumbled calls, but those guys made more legitimate calls than some of these Serie A refs do right now, where it's like, and like, for example, Milan's had the same issue too, where they're like looking at some of these calls and they're like, what the heck's going on? And it's ironic because a lot of these teams are trying to push for the American system of reviews where, like, for example, hey, the ref goes to VAR, we challenge the review, the ref goes and replays it and then says, hey, this is my thought process here, this is what it is. But like the only time, and this happens in all the leagues, all the European leagues, is like, I think these refs just have too many egos, man. Like, for example, if you
they're not going to change, they're going to change what they already called. They don't want to be proven wrong. Yeah,
because, like, could you imagine, like, for example, because for some of these refs are like, well, whatever, I know what I'm calling. I don't like most of these refs. I'm pretty sure they don't even like VAR. They're just doing it because it's gigs of the job. But like, I forgot his name. He's the Italian referee, the bald guy that used to be on. He was the only referee that was ever on FIFA. Everyone calls him the Don.
Yeah.
He made a comment recently where he's like, hey, these refs need to start being a little bit more accountable for what they're calling and talking about what they're calling. Because I think it was one of the games in Serie A where he was commenting on it where it was some of the most stupidest calls ever, and he's like, yeah, he because apparently he's actually in like UEFA's governing body for the Association of Referees, and he was talking about it, and he was like, yeah, we need to do something here, man. He's like, these refs need to be a little bit more transparent with the teams and the fan base as well.
Yeah. Well, the problem, Yusuf was saying Colina. Is that who it
is?
Colina.
That's Colina. There we go.
I'm terrible with ref names. I try. It would be good if I never knew a ref's name. I shouldn't know a ref's name, to be honest.
Yeah.
That's how you know you're a good ref. I think one of the situations, one of the issues there that I really think whenever we go into it is that how in every other sport, VAR is just going to the tape. That's all it is. You're going to the tape. You're making the call. Almost every other sport, I feel like I may not like it, but they review it and they usually get it right. Not always do they get it right on review, but almost, I'd say about 90-something% of the time, you look at it, you can tell what it is. And when it comes to VAR, I'll be honest, I don't watch a ton of Premier League and all the other stuff, but when it comes to Italian football, they look at it, and they say what they were going to call anyway. And that's kind of what
Yeah.
it is. It doesn't feel like, it feels subjective. It doesn't feel like it's something that you look at it and it's obvious that's what the call should have been. Like,
Well,
that's what I have an issue. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same thing in England too, because I know a lot of I have friends with a lot of Premier League fans, and they're saying the same thing. Like VAR is an absolute joke because the referee is not transparent. Because, like for example, even with the NBA right now with basketball, where it's like they're reviewing a call or a foul or a motion or something like that, the referee is on a headset, and his headset's also connected to the audio. So like while they're deliberating with the officiating crew, he's like, "Hey, yeah, I'm checking number 12 over here for a flagrant 2 just because his elbow came down at this angle." Like for me, I would want to hear the VAR guy talking to the ref saying, "Hey, I think De Ligt accidentally nicked Lautaro's knee, but I'm not too sure on the motion of Lautaro's leg on the back." If I just hear that, I'm okay with it. Because, like, for example, for me, my main thought process is the ref walks up to the monitor like this, kind of looks like this for the camera, and then just goes like that out of nowhere because he's like, "Oh, I'm just going to overturn this," or something like that. Because and that's always been my issue with football refs too. Because, like, for example, when I play pickup and I hear a call or something like that, I'm going up to the ref. I'm like, "Hey, what's the call? I just want to know. I'm not here to criticize your call. I'm just trying to figure out what's your thought process. What are you doing this? Why are you doing this?" And he'll say, "Well, Dash, because you came in at this guy. He didn't have clear possession of the ball. You nicked his ankle, so I'm going to call it a foul." Yeah. It's one of those things where it's transparency, man. Like, and I'm sure, like, even when the players or the captain goes up to ref and be like, "Why are you calling this?" He just looks at you and goes like this. Yep. Like, this is all I see for the most time. Like, just go away or dissent. I think that is the stupidest rule ever in sports, where someone can get yellow carded for dissent just because the referee got his feelings hurt because you look at him funny. He can just straight up yellow card you. Yep. But I've always said football refs are soft. That's my opinion, and it's always going to be that.
Yeah, I mean, but I guess technically it's only, well, yeah, especially when it's the captain, because the captain's supposed to be able to do that. Yeah. Anybody else, you're not really supposed to. But if it's the captain, you can't be soft in that situation. That's the point of him being the captain. Anyway, yeah, there's all kinds of nonsense with it. But again, we're not saying that this is, the situation. That's not why Juventus lost, obviously. Juventus lost for plenty of stuff that they done on their own, especially if you look at all the opportunities they had at the end of the first half, where they should have, at least gotten a goal. Then you're playing a totally different game, and you're not having to sit a different the way they're looking at it at the end. I think we're gonna have to get out of here, wrap it on up. Any other comments or thoughts you really want to give out there? Any hot takes you want to fire off before we get out of here for today?
No, I think I've let it all out. I've done anything, unless there's something in the chat, but I don't even think that there's really anything worth calling out. So.
No, not really. I mean, I did see the one comment by KF Squad was just saying the good thing about CR7 joining is that it brought more Juve fans that spotlight on City out football. That's true. I mean, there were some plastic fans, obviously, but there's some.
But they all left, and we're like in a terrible financial organization though right now.
It's true. It's you good with the bad. There are some. I mean, obviously Juventus's name grew, and although it already had the established name, obviously, but then it did help. And I'm not trying to. I don't want to overcredit Ronaldo, but yeah, there are a lot of people who didn't know. Like I said, in areas that you wouldn't know about him. So there's positive aspects, or not know about him, but know about Juventus. There's positive aspects, but unfortunately, it seems that the negatives far outweighed any of the positives that we got in that time. And that's the way I gotta look at it. And that's why I hate watch Manchester United. I don't really. Julian does. I don't actually do that. Julian, he. I mean, the thing is, here there's actually a lot of Manchester United fans here. To be honest.
I didn't know that. Wow, that's interesting.
There are a lot of them I went to high school with. YFG is asking Justin, will there be a daily news video today? Oh. Yes? No, there's not. I'm sorry.
I'm the daily news.
I kind of ran down the news a bit with the Paulo Namolo stuff, and I don't know. That may be the thing tomorrow. I don't know. I don't know if that'll be the news tomorrow, even though I already talked about it. Hopefully something else will come on, but we'll see what happens. Wait, Julian just texted me and said, or texted us, I just took a 20-minute drive and basically ran into myself about how much I can't stand what happened this season. I'm ready to unload on Allegri tomorrow. Don't make that... okay. So he's ready. No, here's
I
what
was
I'll
going to say, I gave you some ammunition there, Julian. So just absolutely destroy him, end his career.
Exactly. Tomorrow will be. There should be a daily news YFG. I apologize. There will be a daily news tomorrow. Today, I'm doing the live, and I had work stuff going on. I have a day job. This doesn't pay the bills. The day job pays the bills. So that's what comes first. Should have a video out tomorrow. I'll talk about all that stuff. But then later in the evening, we're going to be doing a debate show. So definitely make sure you tune into the debate show. I think it's just going to be probably Alejandro, Julian, and myself, unless there's room for anybody else, but we'll see. It just depends. I think Alejandro's still got a lot that he wants to get off as well, so it may just be me sitting back and seeing what happens. But make sure you tune in that tomorrow. Let's see, we had 2 more comments fly in, and then we can get out of here. KF Squad was saying my little cousins didn't know who they were before CR7. Yeah, and no, that's definitely true. You see a lot of younger people or some people that are just, not used to it. Yeah, so there's positive stuff, but again, unfortunately, the financial aspect was a big negative. And then Star says, who chose Allegri in his entry? What? What do you see from...
I think he's trying to say that like Allegri's an undercover entry.
Oh. No, that's not what happened. No, that is Paulo Dybala.
Yeah, that is definitely Dybala.
That is, what I see right now. Anyway, guys, that'll do it for today's edition of the Black and White Take. We fired off some takes. We let you know our thoughts following the match that was yesterday. Unfortunately, not a lot of positive things, except for today we celebrate. I know we didn't talk about it at all. I mentioned it earlier. The U23 move on, where they're in the round of 8, or is it 16? Or
yeah, they're in the last 8.
The final 8, the Elite 8, if you will. That's what we call it in basketball. So they're in the Elite 8 when it comes to that. Potentially with a chance to move on to City B. We'll see what happens there. Hopefully we can keep cheering them on. And I say that with all honesty, that hopefully they do move on and continue to get to City B. If you haven't already, please hit the like button. It really does help our channel continue to grow. Hit the like button if you watched the video at all. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, just hit the like button. And when I say like it, if you personally liked it, not if you already liked it. Just hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Like I said, share if you have other Juventus fans, anybody else you know. Even if they're not Juventus fans, share us. I would love to have some differing opinions from people that are not Juventus fans. Maybe to talk with them as well. We've had sometimes, I've seen a few Milan fans pop up here and there. I've seen some, I think a Napoli guy, even though Napoli's my mortal enemy, because they're the Detroit of Italy as well. It is what it is. But anyway, guys, appreciate everybody doing that. Make sure you follow Bianconeri Zone and Bianconeri Zone on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Make sure you follow me at Justin Sofer on Twitter. And my boy Dash is on Instagram at, say it again.
Dash underscore Feza.
Feza. And I think it's F-E-J-Z-A.
Yep, you got it.
Okay, just want to make sure I did that right. Anyway, guys, that'll do it. We appreciate it. My mates just talk smack. Yeah, we talk some smack too here. But I feel it, my guys. We appreciate y'all. We'll see you guys next time. Forza Juve. Forza Bianconeri.